Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm going to be asking everyone who watches this the question, are you a delusional McFarlane collector? Now, let me be real clear right off the bat. I like McFarlane toys. I've bought McFarlane toys since the company existed back in, I believe, 1995? And I like a lot of their stuff. Now, however, in recent years, I have not liked what they're doing with DC. I prefer my DC collection in more traditional 6 to 6.5 inch scale. It just goes with the majority of the rest of my, comic book and superhero collection. That's what I prefer. So while I did get into McFarlane's DC Multiverse stuff early on, I have gotten rid of a lot of that collection and gone back and started picking up a lot of older DC stuff, mostly Mattel, whether it's DC Comics Unlimited, DC UC, Mattel's DC Multiverse, DC Villains, things like that, because I just prefer that scale for my quote-unquote superhero collection. But, the idea that there are a lot of delusional McFarlane DC Multiverse collectors out there is something that I have run across a lot. And that is not to say there are not delusional Marvel Legends collectors or Black Series collectors or anything else like that. I just tend to see more of it with the McFarlane collectors, specifically the McFarlane DC Multiverse collectors. Okay, now let me make something real clear. I like McFarlane. As I said, I've been buying their stuff for a long time. In fact, I think McFarlane's Warhammer line is one of the greatest action figure lines that currently exists. Okay? So I'm not trashing McFarlane, but still a lot of very, very delusional McFarlane DC Multiverse collectors out there. This McFarlane DC Multiverse Facebook page is, this is a group that I'm part of because, again, I do like McFarlane stuff and I like to talk about toys. So somebody posted this post from the Marvel Legends Collectors. Actually, the full name of this group here is Marvel Legends Collectors and More. It's a group that I'm a part of, and somebody just posted a question on there, or really a statement more than anything else, just a statement of opinion. Hot take: if McFarlane figures were 6-inch scale, more people would collect them, and by extension, care more about Image Comics. Now, for the first part of that, that's absolutely true. If McFarlane figures were 6-inch scale, and by 6-inch, let's clarify something here. What we mean is what has become known as Marvel Legends scale, which is really 6.5 inch. It's not true 6-inch scale, but that's what we're talking about here. This is a debate that's been going on literally since McFarlane got the DC license, okay? Since the day they got the license and announced they were going to be doing 7-inch scale figures, collectors all over the world have said, why didn't you just go with 6-inch like everyone else? Okay? It's literally a conversation that's been had for a very long time. Many smart people agree that if they were doing 6-inch scale stuff, they would probably sell more because more people are into that particular scale than the 7-inch scale, which is kind of considered a one-off scale in some aspects. It has gained some popularity in the last 5 years or so, mostly because of companies like NECA, Super 7, and McFarlane. But still, 7-inch scale is kind of few and far between. There's not a ton of lines out there compared to how many lines are actually doing 6 to 6.5 inch scale stuff. But I think it's pretty much common sense that if they did more standardized stuff like a lot of other companies were doing, they might actually sell more figures. Now, I don't understand the end of this, and by extension, care more about Image Comics. That I don't get. Maybe, possibly, he's saying that, well, if he did his Spawn line in 6-inch scale as well, that would get more interest in Image Comics. I don't know exactly what he's trying to say, so I'm not really going to clarify on that. But, of course, this gets posted in the DC Multiverse group takes like this in groups unrelated to the lines being discussed are always so disingenuous. Now, first of all, again, Marvel Legends Collectors and More is the name of this group. I'm a part of that group. They talk about all lines of toys, okay? There obviously is a focus on Marvel Legends because it is the largest action figure line that currently exists. They sell more action figures than any other line. So yes, there is a focus on that. I just thought this was kind of ridiculous. Just because somebody has this take, which many of us do, does not mean that it's disingenuous. Certainly not because you're discussing it in something with the name Marvel Legends in the title, okay? So I responded and said it's not disingenuous. I said it's just true. I said there are a lot of Marvel Legends collectors out there like me that also love DC Comics and would love to have their collection more standardized to the most common scale available, which is that quote-unquote 6-inch scale. And, you know, there's a reason why people like myself may spend more time collecting older Mattel-era DC stuff instead of newer McFarlane stuff, because we like the scale better. There's a lot of people like me out there. And I was explaining to this guy saying, hey, that's not disingenuous. I wasn't being rude in the comments or anything like that. I just said, hey, this isn't disingenuous. This is a sentiment a lot of people have. We love DC Comics. I grew up on DC Comics, okay? Superman was my first favorite superhero. I would love to have more modern lines in 6-inch scale for these characters that I love. And that's what I was trying to explain to him, that it's not disingenuous, it's just an opinion people have, and that I happen to agree with. And the responses that I got were just honestly kind of ridiculous. One person responds and says, DC's common scale has always been more 7-inch. Well, that's just not true. That's ridiculous. That is the statement of a delusional collector. No. DC's scale has not always been more or less 7-inch. The 7-inch thing, while there was some dabbling in it in the DC Collectibles Essentials and I believe a couple of DC Direct lines, it's always been 6 to 6.5 inch scale. Okay, pretty much across the board. When you look at, you know, DC UC, Mattel Multiverse, DC Superheroes, DC Villains, DC Direct, DC Movie Masters, DC Comics Unlimited, all those lines were all 6-inch scale lines. So that's just, again, that's a delusional opinion. And I started getting some responses, and I said, hey, you know, that's just not true. There's a lot of 6-inch scale lines out there. And then the author of this particular post said, it's only popular amongst Legends collectors. Everyone else has gradually moved to 7-inch scale, like most collector lines, including DC Direct since the early 2000s. Oh my God, is that such a stupid statement and so easily, provably untrue. Okay? And to say that most collector lines have moved to 7-inch scale is absolutely ludicrous and delusional. It's just not true, to which I responded, that's not true. And I gave a list of all the action figure lines, current and past, that are in that 6-inch scale. Marvel Legends, DC UC, Mattel Multiverse, DC Superheroes, DC Villains, DC Direct, DC Movie Masters, DC Comics Unlimited, G.I. Joe Classified, Balaverse, Fresh Monkey Fiction, Loose Collector, Black Series, AWOC, Jada, Mezco, Mafex, Revoltech, Square Enix, Boss Fight Studios, 3-0, Ukaz Studios, Muff Toys, SH Figuarts, and now even Storm Collectibles has started downscaling their figures and listing them as true 1/12 scale. Every new company to market is going for that Marvel Legends scale for a reason, because it's the most popular. They also, coincidentally, usually go with Marvel Legends Articulation as well, to which the response I got was a bunch of past and dead or dying lines that no one is buying. Keep in mind that no one is buying are still doing 6.5-inch scale. Everyone else is getting to 7-inch. What I said is absolutely true. Are you kidding me? I just sat there and mentioned all these modern lines that, by the way, many of them, especially G.I. Joe Classifieds, Marvel Legends, Black Series, these lines sell just as many, if not more, especially in the case of Marvel Legends, than McFarlane does. Marvel Legends alone sells more than all of McFarlane's lines put together. Okay, never mind, again, all the new companies that are coming to market. Muff Toys, Loose Collector, right? Boss Fight, Valiverse has only been around for what, 3, maybe 4 years now at this point. All right, SH Figuarts has even moved from true 6-inch scale. Now, if you've looked at some of their newer figures coming out, whether it's the Guardians of the Galaxy figures from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or whatever, they're now Marvel Legends scale figures. Basically 6.5 inches, okay? There's a reason for that, okay? There's a reason. It has become the kind of quote-unquote default when it comes to what most modern collectors want. Now look, if you like DC Multiverse from McFarlane, awesome. That's personal preference. It's not my cup of tea per se. Like, I like some of their stuff. I do still occasionally buy a figure here and there. But for DC stuff, it's not what I go to. For Warhammer stuff, man, I love it. Hands down, phenomenal line. But it's all personal preference, right? But if you're going to take a post from some other group, post it in your group, just to essentially start shit, and then somebody's going to question what you're saying and say, hey, come on. They're not being disingenuous, and here's why, and list the reasons. Don't be retarded enough to then debunk absolute fact with nonsense, okay? And again, this shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but I see it over and over and over again, specifically in the McFarlane DC Multiverse collector universe. Because I follow a lot of these pages because I do like McFarlane and the levels of mental retardation and hoops that people jump through to try and defend their love for this line is absolutely ridiculous. And it flies in the face of all facts and logic. The facts are the quote-unquote Marvel Legends scale is the most popular scale in action figures today and has been for about 15 years. The Marvel Legends Articulation is the most popular engineering for articulation on the market today. It's again why companies like Boss Fight Studios, 3-0, Square Enix, okay, Muff Toys, Loose Collector, Valiverse, all went with that style of articulation. Period, end of story. These delusional McFarlane collectors who say things like, oh, McFarlane's better than all of them, and everybody loves 7-inch, and everything's moving to 7-inch, and McFarlane's articulation is better. You're living in a dream world. It's just not true. If you like the figures, awesome. And I'm not going to judge on that. Hell, a lot of the figures I like are older, antiquated, you know, single jointed elbow and kneed older figures, right? So I'm not complaining that you like something that doesn't have as good of articulation or isn't in a great scale. Hell, I still collect 3 3/4 inch stuff. I'm not judging you on that, but if you are going to start shit with collectors of other toys, back it up with some facts. Because you don't have any in this particular case. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this is something that I see prevalent in the McFarlane DC Multiverse collector world. They live in a delusional fantasy world where they think everybody loves McFarlane articulation and everybody loves 7-inch scale, when it is provably untrue. So, the point of this is, if you are a McFarlane DC Multiverse collector, awesome. I'm glad you found something you like. Ultimately, that is all that matters. As I say at the end of every video, enjoy your collection. But if you're going to start some shit, please leave the delusions and the mental retardation behind and back up your claims with some facts.